Okay, so this is the entire thing starting from scratch. The first thing to do is to create a new project. It's going to be a document-based app, not a single view app, so that we'll get all the little stubbed out routines, etc., that are going to make this so much easier. We're going to call this circles, and we're going to put it in a directory that I'm calling down. Excuse me. Okay, the first thing I want to do is set up the document types. So here I am in the files info. I come over here to the info tab, and I can create the exported documents. There's nothing that's exported so far. Now remember that exported documents are the ones that we're creating that nobody else has. So mine's going to be called circles. Identifier is going to be edu.umd.kelleher.circles. It's going to conform to this format called public.data, which doesn't say much. It just says that anyone can use it. Exported properties. So here, what we want to put is ut type or tag specification. ut type tag specification. And this is actually going to be a dictionary. All right, now if I just click plus here, it's going to create another high level or top level tag here. Instead, what I want to do is open this up and then hit plus, and I get to create a key that goes into the dictionary. And that key is going to be, it's just going to be public.filename extension. And this is where you actually specify the circles. This is the most important circles. The rest of them are basically just identifiers for tying exported UTIs to the regular document types, etc. Sorry, I have a cold. But what this is the one that's actually going to be registering this file extension as something that corresponds to this. So we have circles, UMD circles, public.data, UT type tag specification. It's a dictionary, public.filename extension. I think that's correct. Then we come over here, we add another document type. We have to add the same document type. Names again, circles, edu, UMD, Kelleher dot circles. And here, this is where we need to add CF bundle type role. And that role is editor, could be viewer, but in this case, we want to be able to create them. And then we also want ls handler role rank, and that's going to be owner, which could also just be an alternate. Okay, CF bundle type role, ls handler rank. All right, so I think that's good. So now all I've done is add in these types, or these flags. I haven't changed any code or anything else, and I want to show you how much you can actually get out of this starting as document type. And so I'm just going to run it, see what happens. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to create anything, but you'll see that when I run this, we have an awful lot of mechanism built in from the browser view controller here. And it's basically sort of a mini form of the files application. All right, so I have the ability here to go into everything that's accessible on the simulator, which is basically the iCloud drive. It should be the local drive too. I'm not sure what's going on now, because I was just there. Okay, well anyway. And I can select things that have dot circles, so that's all correct. So now I want to start building out the pieces. And what I'm going to start out with is by changing the names of things to be sort of what I want. All right, the document browser view controller is going to change. The document view controller is going to change. So I want to make this a circle controller. That's going to change everything. References, including references in the storyboard and over here in the file name even. The document is going to be a circle document. And I want to create one well, two other files here. I have the circle controller, but I also need, first of all, a circle view. So let me create a new file here. It's going to be a CocoaTouch class because it's going to be a view. So this is going to be the circle view. And that subclass of UI view. Right in the same place. So circle controller, circle view. The view is important because the circles application is just going to be showing a bunch of circles. So those have to actually be drawn with Bezier path, etc. So that has to be done, or is easiest done anyway, in the view structure. All right, so I have circle document. And the last thing I want to create is a file for the circle container. It's just going to be a Swift file. It doesn't derive from anything else. And the circle container is going to be basically the model of this application. It's going to have everything in it that we're going to be saving as state to the file system and then pulling back in. And what is this? Well, it's basically a bunch of circles. So let me define circles first. Struct circle. Of course, what is a circle? A circle basically has a center. It's going to be CG float. And you see, it didn't auto-complete that CG float. The reason for that is that we didn't import UIKit here, since it was just an ordinary Swift file. So now it should be able, to auto-complete that. And then what else do we need? We need the radius. That's also a float, and that's it. All right. Now for the circle container, the only thing we really need is circles. It's going to be an array of circles. And we're just going to initialize that to begin with as an empty array. Okay, now I'm going to put a few things in here, which are going to be useful for the encoding that we have later on, because this is going to be the model, right? And the model is going to be the stuff in the document that we actually want to save and pull back. And when you encode something, you encode a specific variable, a specific instance of a class. And you don't want to encode the entire document because that's got a lot of other cruft in it. But you just want to encode the important bits. And the important bits are whatever your model is. And that model is going to be the circle container. So I talked in class about combining circle container in with documents. I thought more about it, and I think this is actually a better way of doing it. Because this is going to completely encapsulate what we need to save and what we need to restore. And then we can actually do that with encoding, because that has to be encoding of an entire instance of a class, not just part of a class, like part of a document. Okay, and like I talked about before, there's this stuff I want to just go ahead and copy in without talking too much about it. First of all, there's a failable init here, and what that's going to be passed is a data. So this is a way to actually instantiate a circle container from a data, and that data needs to be decoded. So if let decoded equal JSON decoder, and I need an instance of a JSON decoder, not the sort of generic class type. I need an instance, so I just create one with the parenthesis here, and then it just goes away afterwards. .decode, and it's going to be circle container.self, and that's going to be from JSON. All right, so that's sort of weird syntax, but this is actually the way that you do it. If you look at decode here, that's not going to let me do that because I have an error. Right? What the error is, essentially, is that this is not decodable. Right? And the reason it's not decodable is I haven't specified that it's decodable. CG floats are going to be decodable by default, but circle is not. I have to actually specify that by saying decodable. Likewise, circle container is an array of codables, i.e. the circle, but I still have to specify that. So I do that. And now we're going to come down here, and hopefully this goes away. The call can throw, can throw. So I'm going to do this to take care of that throw. Okay, so now it's created, but it's not used. And the weird thing is the fact that what we're passing here is circle container.self rather than just self. If you look at the signature of decode here, this is a generic type, and generic types just give you a slightly different way of specifying what's going to be passed to it. If I look at what's underneath here for JSON decoder, it gives you this example here. And you can see we're doing the same sort of syntax, which is specifying the type of object that we're actually going to be decoding into. Because understand that decode by itself cannot figure out what's going to be decoded from this binary data. The binary data doesn't have information about what it's summarizing. It's not self-describing, which is what would be nice that it were, but it's not. So instead, we have to pass it this container.self to tell it exactly what the data is supposed to be looking like. All right, so we've done that. And then we can just say circles are going to be equal to decoded.circles. And we've now gotten everything back that we want. Okay, so there's that. Now this is going to allow us to load data from a data, load the circles basically from a data, and instantiate them correctly. But what we haven't done is show how to actually store them back. And the way that we're going to do that is just use a computed property. And that property is going to be JSON, which is going to be data optional. And when we read from this is just a getter, there's no setter. When we read from this, what we're going to see is, let's say, return try JSON encoder in this case. Again, we have to have an instance of it, encode. And what we're going to encode is the self. So what we're going to encode basically is this circle container, which contains an array, and that's it. And that's essentially it. All right. So now we have the circle controller, the circle view, the circle container, circle document. And we can go back and start changing the main storyboard. So in this main storyboard, what you get is the normal document browser view controller. This has to be the primary or first view controller. It has to have the arrow pointing to it. Otherwise, the whole browsing won't work. And when you set this up, when you create a brand new project with the document stuff, you get the browser controller, view controller. And you also get one for the documents. In this case, it already pre-named it circle controller. I'm not going to use this. I'm just going to leave it alone. I could change it, but I'm just going to ignore it. Except that I don't want to have any sort of confusion about the fact that I'm ignoring it. So I don't want this thing to be named. I don't want it to be named circle controller. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and just delete it. And now it's just going to be UI view controller. And I want to take the storyboard ID out as well. All right, now so I need to create a new view controller for my, my circles. So create the view controller right here. This I want to be a circle controller. And I also want that to be the story ID. All right, secondly, I wanted the view that comes with this circle, with this view controller, to be a circle view. Right? It has to be a circle view, otherwise my draw routine won't get called. So I look and there's my circle view. All right, so all that's good now. And I can go back and start working on this stuff. All right, to set things up, the first thing I need to do is look at this document browser view controller. There are several different functions here. There's first view did load. It does a little bit of initialization. All it's really doing here is setting the delegate to itself, and that delegate is the browser view controller stuff. And also setting up a couple flags, allowing document creation. Yes, we want that. Right there. Allow picking multiple items. No, we don't care about that because we're only picking items when we're opening generally. Well, you might want to pick multiple items to do deletions too. All right, let me change that. Okay, and then underneath that, there are several different routines here that allow you to open a document. They all end in calling, well, this one doesn't, but these guys end in calling present document, which is defined right here. And in here, we actually try to deal with this document and display it. But the one that I skipped over here is this first one here, document browser did request document creation with Hammer. So this is what's going to be called when we want to create a new file of type circles. And we have to have a template of what this empty file, this brand new file is going to be someplace. And that's what we're supposed to return right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this document URL definition, put it someplace else, and put it up here. And it can't be let, it's got to be a var, because I'm going to modify it. So this is the document URL, new document URL. And I need to define that in here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll say new document URL is going to be equal to the file manager .default .url. Okay, this gives me all the stuff that I need. All right, the search path directory. This is actually an enumeration, and this is specifying which of these system folders that I want to search in, or that I want to actually store this new document. And I don't happen to know what they are off the top of my head, but I can just press dot, and then it'll do the command completion and show me all the possibilities here. And there are a lot of them. All right, but understand that this is for the template of our file. So what I want is something where it's not going to get seen by the user. I essentially want the application support directory. So I'll just click on that. Now the mask, same sort of thing, it's an enumeration. If you recall, I talked about this in class. These are the different domain masks. Essentially, we always want user domain mask, at least in iOS. Because we're not writing systems code here, we're writing user application. So user domain mask, and again for iOS, appropriate for is always going to be nil. We just don't care about that one. And we want to allow creation? Yes, we do. All right. Now the complaint up here is that it's can throw, but it's marked with try, not marked with try. So I'm going to go ahead and use a try conditional here, which is fine because new document URL is already an optional. So that's good. So now we have a URL, exactly what we want. But now we have to actually create it. Okay. So to create this thing, we have to actually create an empty circles container. Excuse me. To write to it, and then we write to it. So let's do that. Circles equal to circle container. That's it. And let data equal to circles.json. Okay, the initializer is the problem here. So if we come back to this container, I don't have an initializer without any arguments. So let me just do that. Okay, now I have that. Let's come back. That should be fine. Away. And now I can start doing this. Say the data is going to be circles.json. And now I can just try to write it. Data dot write. No. Huh. Okay, hold on a second here. Okay, so what I want to do is just create a file at this point. So I'm going to just throw away the result of file manager default create path, create file. That path, the path is going to be the new document URL .path. Contents are going to be a data optional, and that's exactly what we have right there. And I don't actually need the attributes at all, so I'm just going to leave that one off. That should do it. I was complaining. Optional string must be wrapped, unwrapped. So it's the path that's the issue here. That should be fine. Okay, so now I've created the URL to this. Cannot force unwrap it. Okay, I'm not sure what it's complaining about. String. This is presumably this, right? Yeah. So you can't get help from this stuff. Presumably path is not an optional, but this is an optional. This makes the entire thing an optional. So the way to fix this is just to take that URL and make it non-optional. So that URL equal new document URL, boom, and here just a URL.path. That should do it. That's going to create it. Good deal. Okay, so that's all we're going to need to do right there. Down here, then, in the did request create with handler, we've ensured that it's going to use the same URLs I'm creating up here because this is actually a class or instance property. The one change I want to make, though, is the fact that this is actually going to move my created template from its nice protected place and put it someplace else, wherever I get a request to create a file. And that means that it's not going to be there for the next file that I want to create. So this should not be move, it should be copy. And then that's fine. Then for these guys, these are fine. Then we come down to present document. Now, for this approach, for the document-based approach, what happens is that we go to a new view controller, not by doing the normal sort of segue like we do with the navigation controllers or tab bars or split view controllers, that sort of thing. Instead, we present the new view controller modally. We just completely overlay our current view controller with the other one. So what we do is we get a pointer or a reference to the storyboard by using main here. And then we get the document view controller that has the circle controller as the identifier. And then we set the circle controller. I'm going to make this whole thing the circle controller here too. We set the circle controller's document to be equal to the circle document. All right. So that allows, and then we actually present it. And this is an iOS method call here, which is going to present things in an animated fashion. It's going to swoop up, and there you go. So in circle controller here, we've specified that the circle controller document is this. We can leave it. Oh, sorry. Here we go. We can leave it as a document like it is right here, or we can make it a circle document. I'm going to make it a circle document just so it's a little bit easier to play with. All right, so that's there. What has to happen next? So in the circle view, we also have to have a reference to this because the circle view is going to be actually displaying the circles. So we want to have the same sort of thing here. And it's just a reference to the same instance. It's not going to be a copy of it, which is important. All right, and so the other thing to do here in circle view is we're going to have to actually override this draw. So let me uncomment all the stuff. And this is where we're actually going to do drawing of our circles. And this is going to be real straightforward. I might as well go ahead and do it right now. Document is going to give us a circle document. A circle document is going to have a circle container in it. And that container is going to have the actual circles. Okay, so here in circle view, I have potentially a reference to a circle document. So if let document, if I actually have the circle document, and let the container equal doc.container, I would take, let's go back in circle document. What do I have here? It's container. Circle document has a container. So I should be able to say doc.container here. Not sure why it's not happy. If those are both true, then I can do something with it. Yeah, so it's not complaining. All right, these are sort of chaining the conditionals together. All right, so given that I'm down here now, container is actually going to be the container which has a bunch of circles. So I just draw them, right? So to draw these things, it's pretty straightforward. What I'm going to do is just say, first of all, path be equal to UI Bezier path, just like we've done before. For C in container.circles, all right, that'll be good. I'll call it circle. For circle in container.circles, then I'm going to add something to that path. Path.append. That's going to be a new Bezier path. And I could do this with the rounded rect. I showed you how to do that with circles before, but I'm just going to use this arc instead. All right, so first of all, I need the point at the center here. And that's just going to be circle.center. I already got that. Radius, circle, sorry, start angle, end angle, clockwise. Okay, the radius is going to be the circle.radius. Start angle is going to be 0. The end angle is going to be CG float.pi times 2. 2 pi radians is the same as 360 degrees. Hopefully you know that. And then clockwise is going to be true. So this is complaining that CG float expected CB. Did I mess that up? Okay, probably did. The center is not a CG float. It's going to be a CG point. All right, so take me back, and here we are. This should go away. So I draw this for each one of the different circles. And then I have to set a color, UI color dot, say green, dot set stroke. Path dot line width equal to say 2, maybe 3. Then path dot stroke, and that's done. Right, that's going to be basically it for drawing. Nothing else to do there. Okay, so let's come back to the circle controller. The circle controller is where the actual clicking, etc., is going to be caught. So here, there's some leftover stub stuff that's been stuck in by creating the new document, or the new project from the document approach. And what this is basically using that other view controller that I'm ignoring and setting the label to be the name of the file and just showing what the name of the file is, because it doesn't actually have anything specific to different types of documents. So I don't care about that. I'm not even using that view controller, so I got to remove that. Instead, what I want to do when my circle view controller appears is I want to create some gesture recognizers. All right. The first one I'm going to have is going to be called single tap. And the recognizer is going to be a UI tap, gesture recognizer. And I want this to actually create a new circle when a tap occurs. Okay, so first thing I want to do is say let location be equal to recognizer.location. And that's going to be in the self. Actually, it's going to be in view. So if this, then if the document dot container, which is not have that. There it is. So if let container document.container, I can probably combine these two, but I'm not going to do it. So I have my location. If the container exists, then container dot circles dot append a new circle, and that new circle I need an initializer for. I don't think I've created one. Come back here. Nope, no initializer. So let's create an initializer. Net cg point radius is going to be cg float. Center equals c, radius equals r. And now I have an initializer, so I can come back in this controller, and here I can create a circle with this initializer. Do it. It's just not caught up to me yet because I'm so fast. Okay. So now I've created a new circle and I've appended it. So there are a couple things I need to have done here. First of all, I need to make sure that this is actually going to be displayed. Because unless I tell iOS that something needs to be displayed, it's not going to be. So I need to say that view.set needs display. Then the other thing is I need to make sure that this change that I made to the document gets written back as well. So I'm going to say document dot update change count. And I have lots of different types. This is enumeration again, so if I type my period, I get to see what it looks like. Redone and undone are for when you can use the mechanisms the document gives you to actually implement redo and undo in your application. You can do it really simply. It'll allow you to sort of unwind things that you've written, just like a version control system. But you have to add a little bit more mechanism to do that. I'm not going to do that today. So I'm just going to say done. That's the only one I care about. All right, so I did two things here. I set needs display so that the view is going to redisplay. And I changed the change count here. And now this doesn't necessarily immediately say that we need to, that the system has to write something back. It's going to try to aggregate multiple writes into a single write and do it slowly. But eventually it'll get written back. And certainly if once I close the document, it'll get written back as well. All right, so that's basically all I need for that one. Let me make sure that that's it. I think it is. All right, the other one that I want to have is a double tap. All right, so this is for creating a circle, but I also have to have a way of getting out of the modal display of my controller. So I want to create another Objective-C function, call this double tap. It's also going to have a recognizer. It's going to be UI tap gesture recognizer. And in this one, what I want to do is essentially the same thing that this stub code does. I want to dismiss the modally displayed view controller, which is my circle controller. And as a completion routine that's passed to that, I want to actually close the document. And when it closes the document, it ensures that everything is written back if it hasn't already done so. All right, so those are great. Now all I have to do is actually add them. So I say let single be equal to UI tap gesture recognizer. I have to add some stuff here, don't I? Yes, okay. Target's going to be self. I want these notifications to come back to the circle controller. And the action is going to be upon selector single tap. And I think that's that. Okay. Then I need to say single dot number of taps required equals 1, single dot number of touches required equals 1. I need then to add this to the view. And poof, done. I want to do the same thing for the double. I'll say 2 here for the number of taps required. touches, it's still going to be 1. Still want the same number of fingers, and then I want to add it as well. Something's not right here. What is it? All right, so what's happening here is, of course, we're inside of a completion closure right here. So we have to be, in order to disambiguate things, we have to make sure that we specify which single tap we want. It's the one in this instance. Or this class. So I'll just do a self dot. And same thing with the view. The view has to be disambiguated as well. Now that one's ready to go. There's still going to be some issues, but I think that's sufficient for right now. Got a lot of stuff in there. I don't know. Let's go. See what happens. Saying that the old view controller that I'm ignoring is unreachable. That's fine. Okay, so this is an old one. I might as well try to open that up and see what happens. Open it up. I see nothing. That's not good. I'm also not able to move this thing around. Okay, there we go. Let's see if the double tap works. Okay, I got out fine. All right, so we need to figure out what's going on here. Let's think about this for a second. Basically what happened was I was able to look at the browser, but when I tried to actually click on something, I got an empty screen. Otherwise it seemed fine. Okay, well, then duh. The reason is I haven't actually specified any of the stuff in the document. I haven't overridden I've overridden it, but I haven't actually put any contents in load. All right, so when I double-clicked one of those documents there, it called load here to load stuff in, but I didn't actually do anything there. So, yeah. So what I'm going to need to do is just figure out what's happening here. So the documents, or the stuff that's coming in from the file is an any, and I need to cast that into a data and then read from data into my actual file. Now, if you remember, in here, I've defined an initializer to do exactly that, to decode from some data and turn it into an actual circle container. And then I use that to specify what the circles are going to be. So that's what I need to put here as well. All right, except I don't have to put it here. I need to use that stuff. So I'm going to say if let data equal contents as data. Then container is going to be equal to circle container JSON data, and the data's there. Okay, so I've specified now what this container is actually going to be equal to. So now that I've done that, then so this is the circle document. So circle view controller, the circle controller can use that in the tap here to dereference document container and be able to append stuff to it. And likewise in circle view, the document container, I can do the same sort of thing. All right, so that's all I need for the load. I just have to set up container to be the new container. All right, data is a little different. Here I have to get the contents of my current class instance as a data and return that. But I can do that. That one's even easier, right? So I just return the container, which is an optional .json. Remember, I have this computed property here. And since I always want to return something, I'll just do return an empty data if necessary, but hopefully I won't have to do that. Oops. All right, let me try that. Okay, I open this baby up. Still get nothing. All right. There's clearly stuff in there. Let's ignore that for now. Although, why does a single click go to double tap? Single tap, so double tap. Number of taps required is 2, so that'll fix that. But that's still not going to affect the fact that nothing is being displayed from this existing file. So let's go over here and set a breakpoint in circle document at load. Okay, there it is. Got a breakpoint. All right, click. It is loading. So now container should be set up correctly. Let's see what we have. Okay, container's got, looks like 5 different circles. That's all perfectly fine. So the problem is, if I hit this, okay, this is writing things out, so that's good. Still good stuff. Oh, extra. Now I have 8. All right, so those single taps are being accepted. They're just not displaying. All right, so perhaps the problem is this document is not being set. All right, when the document's opened here, I need to set the circle view's reference to that document. All right, makes sense. Otherwise, it's what's happening is in circle view, it's coming in here. Document is an optional, and it's doing this if let, but it's not actually getting in there because document don't think is ever being set. So let's set that here in the open. Okay, if let circle view is equal to self.view as a circle view, then circle view dot document is going to be equal to document. Then circle view dot set needs display. Self.document. All right, that might be it. Open this baby up. Comes in here. I can probably disable those breakpoints now. Yes. All right, let me see if I can do one real time. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, that worked. That's exactly what I want. And I'm in iCloud Drive, and you notice how that was just uploaded. Let me create another one here. Okay, that's a little bit screwed up. Yeah. Okay, let me just show them one more time that this is working, and then I'll go back and fix another problem. So I'm going to add a couple more. And you notice that when I try to do my double click here, it's actually going to add a circle as well. So it's waiting to upload, uploading 400 bytes. Everything's good. This application support, it's like I'm not adding my, my path on the end. So let's see if that's correct. This is URL. Yeah. Dot append path component entitled dot circles. Okay, so that should fix that problem. Let me just show that. Boom, and let me see if I can just get rid of this. Okay, it's gone. Good. Now I want to create a new document. I'm getting a message file down here. I actually have the path component there. Maybe it's this permissions issue that I had before. All right, let me delete this thing and reinstantiate it and see if it works. All right. Now it's going to rebuild that application over there, and the old application support directory will be blown away. A new one here. Yes, I have it. Now it didn't open it up, but now it did. And now I can click and all looks good. 121 bytes. If I open it up, there they are again. Now I still have this 1 versus 2 issue. And that's something I need to fix. So let me show you how you do that. Come back here to Circle Controller. And we want this to conform to a protocol that has to do with competing gestures. So UI gesture recognizer delegate is what we want. And we want to define a function, which I mentioned in class. And what that function is gesture recognizer. No. There are several different types of gesture recognizers that we can do here. And what we're trying to do is disambiguate between 2 gesture recognizers. So I think this is probably one. Ask the delegate should require another recognizer to fail first. That's what we want, okay? So the code should be, what we want to happen is that the single tap firing recognizer should only go forward if the double tap fails, all right? Which is going to slow everything down because we have to wait for the double tap potential before we decide that, all right, the double tap's not going to happen and we just give it a single tap. But it's still going to do the right thing, which is important, right? Correctness is more important than little niceties like that. So this is a Boolean. Do we want this to happen? We want this to happen, this sort of require the other one to fail, if this first one is the single tapper and the second one is the double tapper. Yeah, so I'm going to have to move these tap recognizers out. Out of this scope and put them as properties of the document. So let's single be, that's going to be a variable. Variable be single be UI tap gesture recognizer. And we're going to assume that that's always real. Do I want to do that? Yeah, I could do. And then the same thing here for the double. Because by the time we want to actually reference these things, we'll have already defined it. So let's just not mess around with optional nonsense. Single and double, and so these should go away. This is implicitly done. Oh, right. Disambiguate everything. All right, so now that's all fixed. Now we can come back here and say return basically true if this is if the first one is the single, the second is the double. So just return that Boolean predicate. So if the gesture recognizer equals single, and the other gesture recognizer equals false. Now, there's one last thing that I need to do. Binary operator cannot be applied. No, equals false. What am I doing? Double. There's one other thing I need to do. I don't want this to be called, this gesture recognizer to be called for single and double and then double and single. I need to specify which one it's called for. And the way that you do that is that I just set this view controller as the delegate for only one of them, as with this protocol for only one of them. So single self.single, excuse me, delegate equals self. And I don't do that for the double. So this should only be called for the single at this point. So let's try now. There's a lot of things in here. I can click and I can get more. You see how it's slowed down? Right now I'm going to double click and hopefully it won't create another circle. And I don't think it did. It's 515 bytes now. Yeah. So now, again, I'm going to double click down here and hopefully that nothing will appear. Nothing did. So that's working. That's working. And I just created a new one. Assign 3. Everything's good. Okay. So that's all she wrote.